Hello, Tuesday. Start in the United States of America and something I can't remember exactly where it came from, but it looks like it's written as though it's a hatchet job for President Barack Obama. But these am the facts, and you can't get round that. Total public debt. So they're taking it back to Jan 20th, 2009, which I imagine was when he was inaugurated. If it wasn't, I can see it was roughly around then. And the public debt total was at that time 10,626,000,000,000. And it has now risen to June the 30th, so they haven't, there's the latest figures in, presumably it's risen to 15,856,000,000,000. But the easier to remember figure for here is it's a rise of 5.23 trillion. That is from the Treasury Department total public debt. Now we get to GDP from the BEA, and same Q1 2009 at the start it was 13,923,000,000,000, and it has risen presumably until about June, Q2 of 2012 to 15,606,000,000,000. So GDP has increased by 1.68 trillion. Total public debt has increased by 5.23 trillion. The mathematics is quite actually simple. That multiply 1.68 by 3 and you get about 5.23. Or divide 5.23 by 1.68 and you get about 3. Basically, the debt has increased by 3 times more than the GDP. Moving on, banking usage in Arizona. Yes, there was a number in here that was quite interesting. I'll read. A sizable percentage of Arizonans are struggling financially and might even have taken a step backwards. Since the depths of the recession, the latest sign declining use of checking, saving and other bank accounts. A proportion of unbanked and underbanked Arizonans has risen sharply since the recession, according to a new survey by FDIC. Specifically, 32.1% of Arizona households either don't have a bank account, have any bank accounts, and I've cut it off a bit quickly, but we've got that number, and it'll be representative, and it's quite big, don't you think? Nearly a third of Arizona households don't have any bank accounts. Very big. Anyway, moving on to a Doug Short chart about ISM manufacturing, and it's done in an ISM sort of way. Red dotted line across the middle. Anything above that red dotted line is expanding. Below the line is contracting. Okay, goes back to about the Second World War. First thing to note is at the left part of the chart, it was a lot more up and downy. It was more volatile, wasn't it? A lot more up and then a lot more down. But since I suppose there's been less manufacturing and less manufacturing, it's less volatile. So let's have a look towards the end, the modern era. And we've got one pointy down bit with a red splodge around the year 2000. That's the dot-com crash. There's a 9/11 sticky down bit. I presume that's about 9/11 sticky down bit. And then everything went quite well, but really started crashing down into that recession in about 2004 or 5. So it's a long track down there, isn't it? From 60 down to about 35 from 2003 to 2009. Recovered back up to 60, and it's been in the positive territory ever since, but you can see it's got its little foot on the line now again. So is it going to bounce off the line and go upwards, or is it going to go slashing through it and downwards into contraction? We don't know because we can't see the future. Right, let's have a look for a calculated risk dot chart. Loaded inbound and outbound containers out of Los Angeles and Long Beach ports. So they're the big ports on the east coast and on the left coast. So coming in, loaded in obviously a lot more than going out. And you can see the stonking great increase from 1996 up to 2007. A real bottom left, top right sort of increase of stuff coming in on containers for various reasons. Then the Great Recession had a crash down. It's gone up a little, as you can see, and it's flattened off, quite surprisingly. Flattening off is nothing that loaded in has ever done before on this chart. It's either been going up or coming down, but now it's doing the old flat thing. Going out has been really quite flat from 96 to 2006, and then it had a little increase. Had a little push down from the end of the recession, and now it's risen and flattened off again. So it's all very flat, the comings and goings from in containers, Los Angeles and Palm Beach at the moment. I put that on to try and help the ISM manufacturing. There's no great increase in manufacturing, and there's no great decrease in manufacturing via the export, there is what I'm saying. So we don't really know whether the ISM manufacturing is going to crash downwards or bounce upwards. More likely nothing much is going to happen according to that export-import chart. Well, more the export part of that import-export chart. Right, let's have a look at the president again. And I think this is an in-trade chart, and the great spike up at the end means that, and it's going from 58 to 65 or something. President Obama is likely to get elected again. And that's what that means, that chart. Now, I still haven't got over the fact that he hasn't handed the chance of being elected over to Hillary. My brain, for some reason, it spins on that one. It just can't. I know that I've heard lots of reasons why it was only sensible that Barack goes on for a second term, but it just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem the right thing to do to me. It seemed the only decent thing to do, sensible thing for everybody concerned, would be to hand it over to Hillary. But that is not what has happened, and that means, obviously, we can't judge other people on how our brains feel, because other brainses don't feelses like we do's. Right, let's go over to the United Kingdom and religion, and asked a question about religion. In the old days, most people in England or the United Kingdom, let's say, would say, yes, I'm Church of England. That's just your standard response. But it looks like 50% say they've got no religion at all now. 6% say they're non-Christian. There's 9% Roman Catholics, 15% other Christian, and 20% Church of England or Anglican. I've yellowed at the bottom because it's vaguely interesting. Nearly 2/3, 64% of those aged 18 to 24 do not belong to any religion. So when and if we take it this way, compared with 28% of those 65 and above, so the oldsters, 28%, near a quarter, say they don't belong to any religion. So there's a few of them, but well over twice as many youngsters don't belong to any religion. And that's the way it goes. The oldsters will die off first, and that number in the UK will go down and really quite quickly, because the young people, 64%, do not have any religion at all. So 2/3 of UKites youngsters do not have any religion. And I'm on people's heads at the moment on this part of the video. Okay, people's heads again. Why has this happened in the UK? Maybe you can help me with it. Attitudes to unemployment benefits. Along the bottom is just the unemployment rate. It did run heavily high at 10%, let's say until 1993. And then it started going down again towards about 5-6%, and now it's about 8% again. I mentioned 1993 on that unemployment because something happens in 1993. We'll follow the black line next. Now the black line is they agree or think that unemployment benefits are too low and cause hardship. So the people asked, do you think unemployment benefits are too low and cause hardship to the people that are on unemployment benefits. Up to 1993, over 50%, and it was flat for the 10 years before that, said, yes, we think it's too low and it causes them hardship. But since 1993, it's been coming down and down and down and down. And now it's about 20% think it's too low and causes hardship. But in 1993 or thereabouts, the red line started increasing, where they say, we think unemployment benefits are too high and they discourage work, and that's gone from 30% up to 60%. So something happened in 1993 where the attitude of the UK people towards what they thought of unemployment benefits and the claimers of unemployment benefits changed completely. Why? But at the moment, now, the great disparity there is that most people, the 60%, are thinking that unemployment benefits are too high and they discourage work, and very few people think that they're too low and cause hardship. And that is obviously what politicians can fire off, knowing that the public will back them on that. Inside people's heads again, anti-Japan protests spread across China. It's very easy to say, well, this is just orchestrated by the government, but if it's orchestrated by the government, that's still one lot of people manipulating other lots of people. But I don't think this is actually totally manipulated by the Chinese government. Anti-Japan protests spread across China on Tuesday, prompting many Japanese companies to halt operations amid a bitter dispute about contested islands. Thousands of Chinese demonstrators marched outside the Japanese embassy in Beijing to mark the anniversary of the Japanese invasion of Manchuria. Protests erupted in dozens of other cities, including Shanghai, Chengdu, and Shenzhen. Tensions between the Asian powers have risen in recent months over the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Japan controls the islands. Well, they're just Japanese islands. I mean, what do you mean they control the islands? They're Japanese. If Japan controls them, they're Japanese. Or at least you can say they're Japanese. Called something in Chinese, which are also claimed by China and Taiwan. The thing here is these Eastern people have... No, I can't throw them, I won't throw them all in the same bucket, but the important part there is the anniversary of the Japanese invasion of Manchuria. Now, that was a classically nasty bit of history, but it happened early 30s, I think, before the Second World War anyway, certainly. Now, in Europe, most of the Second World War stuff has been, over various generations, forgotten and forgiven. But over there, the Japanese invasion of Manchuria has not been. And it's just different. People act in different ways due to different circumstances. And that is still a very raw nerve for the people over there. And unfortunately, over there are quite a few actual raw nerves that have been washed over or not exposed due to everybody's, come on, we're doing quite nicely. And as long as everyone was doing quite nicely, none of these raw nerves were exposed. If things stop becoming increasingly nice, raw nerves will be exposed and things can get very nasty very quickly. Over there. That's it. Bye.